If you have an idea, don't listen to anybody who tells you it's not worth doing or it's worthless, because that's not the kind of person you want in your environment if you're a creative person. You want the guys who are supportive and pushing forward with you.
Coming to you from a hangar somewhere near the flight line, I'm Sean Starker, and this is the Future in Flight podcast, where innovation meets inspiration and the impossible becomes inevitable. Today's episode is absolutely mind-blowing. We're starting with something that sounds like pure science fiction, but is happening right now in Oregon, the Samson Switchblade, the world's most popular flying car. You'll meet Sam Bousfield, the architect turned aerospace engineer who spent 14 years turning a dream into reality. We're talking about a vehicle that literally transforms from a car to an airplane in 3 minutes flat. Then we're taking you inside the invisible world of air traffic control, the chess grandmasters of the sky who manage planes at 500 miles an hour using skills that would make NBA 2K players jealous. You'll discover why this might be the perfect career for anyone under 31 who grew up multitasking with technology. And in our Trailblazers of the Skies segment, we're joined by a very special guest playing the role of Mary Chance VanScyoc, the 22-year-old woman who became America's first female civilian air traffic controller in 1942. Back when the job was so new, she was literally making it up as she went along with nothing but a stopwatch and a radio. From flying cars to aviation pioneers, this episode proves that the future in flight is built by dreamers who refuse to accept impossible. Airspeed's alive, let's take off. Today, we're diving into something that sounds like pure science fiction, but is actually happening right now in a hangar in Oregon. Imagine this. You're stuck in traffic on the 405, bumper to bumper, going nowhere fast. But what if you could just sprout wings and fly over it all? That's not fantasy anymore. That's the Samson Switchblade, the world's most popular flying car. And I had a chance to sit down with its creator, Sam Bousfield, a guy who spent 14 years turning an architect's wild dream into aerospace reality. So how does an architect end up building flying cars? Well, it all started with a vision of the future that looked a lot like Star Trek.
When I first started looking at this area, I was an architect. And so, an architect is part engineer and part artist. Artists dream the future, right? They're the guys that kind of lay it out in front of the engineers and say, hey, here, boys, this is where we're going. And so when I looked at aviation and transportation in general, I saw the future of transportation was going to be mostly in the air.
But here's the thing. Sam didn't ask the obvious question that everyone else was asking, how do you make a flying car? Instead, he flipped the script entirely.
Most people, when they started this program, they asked the question, how do you make a car fly? And we didn't ask that question. I looked at it and went, well, what's the best layout for a vehicle that both drives and flies? Because that's what we wanted to provide, something that drives and flies. What's the best layout for that? And we came up with 3 wheels, which is common to aircraft and 3-wheel vehicles.
3 wheels. Simple, right? But here's where it gets crazy cool. This thing doesn't just drive around looking like a weird car with wings bolted on. The Switchblade actually transforms. Picture this. You drive to a small airport, and there are about 5,000 of them across the U.S., way more than the 300 airports with commercial flights. You park, push a button, and in about 3 minutes, your car literally unfolds into an airplane. The wings swing out from underneath, the tail extends, and boom, you've got a vehicle that can cruise at 160 miles an hour through the sky, then land, fold back up, and drive you the last few miles to your destination. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but does it actually work? Because let's be real, there have been a lot of flying car promises over the years. Well, November 2023 was the moment of truth.
Flying qualities were fine, and test pilot got in the air and he didn't want to come down again. So he had a good time, but it didn't go as fast as we wanted, and we set the bar for our design as high performance in both modes.
Here's one of the many things I love about Sam and his team. They could have said, good enough, let's start selling these things. But they didn't. They went back to the drawing board because they had promised high performance and they were going to deliver it.
And in the end, we all decided that really we promised something, we need to deliver. And so even though it's painful as a business, put us a year behind, maybe a year and a half, we decided let's just bite it off. Let's go back at it again.
That redesign led to something really innovative, a hybrid electric system, but not for the reasons you might think.
And we designed a flying car transmission, something that would actually connect to the wheels and the props. Spent 8 months and $250,000 and got it all done, ready to test, and doggone if that engine went out of production. And we can anticipate that this would happen again. And we built a new transmission and we'd use it for a year or two and then have to do all over again. So we decided, let's go hybrid electric.
Smart move. By going hybrid, they made themselves engine agnostic. They can adapt to different power sources as technology evolves. Plus, it's safer. No massive battery that could catch fire in a crash. But here's the part that really put my mind at ease. These aren't just cool gadgets. They're engineered with the same rigor as commercial aircraft.
Every system we have practically is a dual system. So we have 2 locks on everything. We have indicators to show when it's engaged. So when you do your walk around outside before you take off, you can look and see the indicators and know, okay, those made contact and they're good.
And get this, you can even get it with a whole vehicle parachute. Like, if something goes wrong, you pull a handle and the entire contraption floats down safely. The future really is wild. Now, this isn't just some billionaire's toy. Sam's team has over 2,400 reservations from regular people in all 50 states and 50 countries. When they tested the market in India for just 10 days, they got so swamped with orders they had to shut it down.
We saw a very, very big demand there, and they have the most millionaires in the world. That country has the most millionaires in the world. So not the billionaires that the U.S. has, but they have the most millionaires.
The price? Around $200,000 to $300,000. That might sound like a lot, but think about it. You're getting a high-performance sports car and an airplane. Compare that to buying both separately, and it makes more sense. Plus, here's the cool part for anyone thinking about getting into aviation. Sam's team is revolutionizing flight training too, using VR goggles and simulators to make learning faster and more affordable.
Our approach is to use our VR goggles, use that to give the same peripheral vision that you do in a real plane. So it's more like you're actually flying. And then have the student pilot practice the maneuver that is the next one for them to master over and over and over in the simulator until they dial it in.
For any of you out there with big dreams and crazy ideas, Sam's got some advice that hit me right in the feels.
If you have an idea, don't listen to anybody who tells you it's not worth doing or it's worthless, because that's not the kind of person you want in your environment if you're a creative person. You want the guys who are supportive and pushing forward with you.
And to the skeptics who say flying cars will never work?
We just decided not to listen to that because that wasn't what we saw. We see that it's possible to do high performance in both modes, and we kept that as the bar. We flew, sorry. So you proved wrong, okay? We went 125 miles an hour. That's not mild or medium performance.
The Switchblade isn't just a flying car. It's proof that the impossible can become inevitable when you combine vision, persistence, and a really good team. In just a few years, there's a good chance you might see one at your local airport. Up next, we look at what it's like to control air traffic, and we meet a pioneer in the industry in our Trailblazers of the Skies segment. This is your chance to experience the Future in Flight podcast like never before. We're heading to EAA AirVenture 2025 in Oshkosh, and you won't want to miss this. Find us at the Aviation booth E11 throughout the week, where we'll be interviewing the biggest names in aviation, industry leaders shaping tomorrow's skies, standout students breaking barriers, and your favorite aviation influencers. Whether you're passionate about the latest in aerospace innovation or just love everything that flies, come hang out with us at AirVenture. It's going to be an incredible week of aviation, and we want you to be a part of it. We'll see you in Oshkosh, where the future of flight meets the spirit of aviation. Picture this. You're sitting in row 14C, scrolling through your phone as your plane approaches the airport. Through your window, you see dozens of planes moving like a perfectly choreographed dance. But here's what you don't see. The invisible conductor making it all happen.
Southwest 1476, descend and maintain 4,000.
That voice? That's your air traffic controller. And today we're going inside their world. It's 5:30 a.m. at a major airport control tower. While most people are still hitting snooze, air traffic controllers are already 3 cups of coffee deep, reviewing what looks like a meteorologist's fever dream. Controllers start every day like they're planning a military operation. Weather reports, airspace restrictions, which runways are closed for maintenance. It's like being a chess grandmaster who has to see 20 moves ahead, except the chess pieces are flying at 500 miles an hour. But don't just take my word for it. Here's what one controller from the FAA has to say about it.
Open your possibilities. There's so many skills that you learn in air traffic that you can take with you no matter where you go in life.
That morning briefing covers everything from bird migration patterns to temporary military exercises that might affect airspace. But here's the thing that's mind-blowing. These controllers aren't just managing their local airport. When a plane takes off from their runway, in 10 minutes it becomes somebody else's responsibility in another control center. They're like a relay race, except they're passing a baton that has about 200 people inside of it. Step into a modern control tower and it looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. Multiple screens show green dots moving across dark backgrounds, each dot representing a real plane with real people. But here's what's wild. This technology that seems so futuristic, some of it is older than Facebook, some of it older than Google. Controllers work with radar systems that were cutting edge when their parents were in college, right alongside apps that update in real time. It's like having a smartphone duct taped to a rotary phone, but somehow it all works together to keep people safe.
Jazz 563, balloons reported at 1700, wind 280 at 60 left, let's take off.
Sure, take off 31 left on check remarks, 553.
And about that communication, controllers are basically air traffic DJs, except instead of taking song requests, they're preventing mid-air collisions. Here's how one controller at Dallas International described the mental game.
In the same manner that you anticipate your opponent on 2K, it's a parallel in air traffic because you're anticipating based on the speed and altitude and the performance characteristics of this plane, how can I do the things that I need to do while always upholding safety.
Did you catch that? Air traffic control is like playing NBA 2K, except instead of dunking on your opponent, you're keeping hundreds of people safe in the sky every day. In busy airspace, a controller might handle 50 conversations in an hour. That's less than 2 minutes per plane to give life or death instructions. No pressure, right? Now, let's talk about the part that keeps controllers awake at night. Emergencies. Medical emergencies, mechanical failures, severe weather. Controllers have seen it all. They might have a small plane lose engine power with a student pilot flying solo for the first time. In that moment, they become the pilot's best friend, flight instructor, and guardian angel all rolled into one. They have maybe 30 seconds to turn chaos into calm. Controllers train for these moments like pilots train for emergency landings, hoping they'll never need it, but ready when they do. And here's something that might surprise you. The most dangerous part of their job isn't the rare emergency. It's the everyday stress. Air traffic control consistently ranks as one of the most stressful jobs in America, higher than being a surgeon, higher than being a police officer. The average controller retires at 56 because the job literally takes years off your life. But here's the thing, controllers actually love the stress. Here's what one FAA controller said.
It's a fun challenge to me. The harder the challenge for me, it makes it feel like the greater the victory. This puts a smile on my face because I know this is about to be a good day.
Some days, controllers go home and their families ask how work was, and they just can't even explain it. How do you describe holding the lives of 3,000 people in your hands before lunch? But then they remember those 3,000 people all made it home to their families because of what they do. That's worth everything. So what does the future hold for air traffic control? Well, it turns out the next generation of controllers might look a lot like you. The FAA is actively recruiting people under 31. That's right. If you're listening to this podcast, you could be directing air traffic in 2 years. The training is intense. Months at the FAA Academy in Oklahoma, then up to 3 years of on-the-job training. But here's the kicker. Starting salary is around $60,000, and experienced controllers average over $150,000 a year. They need people who grew up with technology, who can multitask, who can stay calm under pressure. Honestly, the generation that learned to play video games while texting while listening to music, you're exactly who they need up there. And if you're still not convinced, listen to this advice straight from a controller at Dallas International.
My advice if you want to be an air traffic controller is just apply. Whether you're a mechanic or a pilot or a current college student, just apply, make sure the resume is up to date, and you'll probably get picked up. I would encourage people to apply this career because it's extremely rewarding. If you like airplanes, other than being in an airplane, this is probably the second best thing. I mean, I stare at the window every day and I get paid to do it. And it's awesome.
But maybe the most important thing isn't about the technology or the training or even the salary. Listen to what this controller said about the day-to-day reality.
It's kind of an adventure from start to finish, your entire shift. You never know what's coming your way, and that's what makes it exciting.
Every day, controllers help connect people. Business travelers getting to important meetings, families reuniting for holidays, students studying abroad, they're a tiny part of all these human stories. When they vector that plane carrying someone's grandparents to their final approach, they're not just managing traffic, they're helping write a chapter of someone's journey. The next time you're on a plane, as you're descending through the clouds towards your destination, remember, there's someone in a tower, probably drinking their 6th cup of coffee, making sure your story has a happy ending. Air traffic controllers, the voice in the sky, the guardians of the airways, the unsung heroes making sure that the miracle of flight stays miraculous. Up next, we'll meet a pioneer of air traffic control in our Trailblazers of the Skies segment. Welcome to another edition of Trailblazers of the Skies, where we dive into the lives of aviation's boldest pioneers, unsung heroes, and skybound legends. From record-breaking pilots to revolutionary engineers, these are the stories that shape the skies we fly today. Buckle up, history's about to take flight. Picture this. It's 1942. You're a 22-year-old woman in a world where most careers are closed to you, but you have a dream, and it involves the sky. Today, we're diving into the story of Mary Chance VanScyoc, a woman who reached for the clouds and ended up changing aviation history forever. Before we had radar screens and GPS, before air traffic control looked like something out of a sci-fi movie, there was Mary, and she was making it up as she went along, because nobody had really done this job before. Mary Chance VanScyoc became the first female civilian air traffic controller in the United States in July 1942. But her story starts way before that in Wichita, Kansas, a place they call the air capital of the world. Born on December 26, 1919, Mary grew up surrounded by the sounds of propellers and the smell of aviation fuel. This was Wichita in the 1920s and 30s. 11 airports, 100 aircraft businesses, and companies like Cessna and Boeing setting up shop. For a kid with aviation dreams, it was basically Disneyland. And Mary? She had those dreams before she even knew what they meant. Listen to how she described it in her book.
As a young girl, long before I ever thought about becoming a pilot, I had a recurring dream. In this dream, I would either be walking or roller skating on the sidewalk, then I would flap my arms and fly about 6 feet off of the ground.
In 1935, when Mary was just 15, she got her first airplane ride with none other than Clyde Cessna. Yeah, the Cessna. That flight sealed the deal. She saved every penny she could get her hands on to pay for flying lessons, and by 1938, she was flying solo. She became the first female aviation student at Wichita University, graduating in 1941 with her degree and a commercial pilot's license. But then World War II changed everything. The war created a massive shortage of workers in every field, including the brand new field of air traffic control. And I mean brand new. The Denver Air Traffic Control Center had just opened in March 1942, 3 months before Mary walked through its doors.
Air traffic control was in its infancy when I started in June 1942. The Air Traffic Control Center in Denver, Colorado had just opened in March with 12 controllers, a chief, a senior controller who was the trainer, and a secretary.
Think about that for a second. Mary wasn't just the first woman to do this job. She was among the first people, period, to figure out how to safely guide airplanes through the sky using nothing but radio calls and mathematical calculations. And when I say nothing but radio calls, I mean it. No radar, no computers, no GPS. Controllers like Mary had to track every single airplane in their heads using pilot reports and stopwatches.
We depended on pilots to give us the exact times over a fixed as well as correct altitudes. We had no way of verifying this information.
The main navigation system was called the A and N beam. Basically, pilots listened for Morse code signals. If they heard da, dit, the letter A, they were off course one way. If they heard dit, da, the letter N, they were off course the other way. When they were right on track, the signals overlapped and created what they called a cone of silence.
The main means of instrument navigation was the old A and N beam. If you were off the course, you would hear the Morse code A, da-dit, or N, da-da.
Mary started on what they called the B board, handling flight data, then moved to the A board, and eventually became a full controller. She worked alongside other pioneering women, Joyce Meade, Madeline Brown, Marge Haynes. During the war, women made up over 40% of the air traffic control workforce. They weren't just filling in, they were building the profession from scratch. In 1944, Mary transferred to Wichita, where the aviation scene was absolutely wild. Every aircraft factory was running at full capacity, pumping out planes for the war effort. Boeing B-29 Superfortresses, Cessna trainers, even remote-controlled Culver drones used for target practice. Mary was directing traffic that included everything from slow-moving trainers to high-speed military aircraft.
Traffic was quite diverse during World War II, especially in Wichita, where I worked in 1944 and 1945. All the factories were at full production.
And remember, the radios were terrible. Static-filled, short-range, low-frequency systems that barely worked half the time.
Our radios were all low frequency until 1944 when VHF and UHF were installed. The low frequency signals were very static laden and did not reach out too far.
For airplanes without radios, and yeah, that was totally legal back then, controllers used light guns. Red light meant stop. Green light meant go, like the world's most consequential traffic signal. Mary even had to shut down the entire airport once when a hangar caught fire in 1945. Picture that responsibility, making split-second decisions that could mean the difference between life and death. After the war ended, Mary left air traffic control in 1947, but she never left aviation. She became a flight instructor, taught at Augusta High School, and worked as a juvenile probation officer. But here's my favorite part of her story. Mary never stopped pushing boundaries. She soloed a helicopter at age 64 and piloted a World War II bomber at 74. Mary wrote about her experiences in a memoir called A Lifetime of Chances, published in 1996. She was inducted into the Kansas Aviation Hall of Fame in 2002 and volunteered at the Kansas Aviation Museum, sharing her stories with new generations until she passed away in 2011 at age 91. Mary Chance VanScyoc proved that being first doesn't just mean being brave enough to step through the door. It means being bold enough to help build the room. When she started directing air traffic in 1942, she wasn't just doing a job that had never been done by a woman. She was helping create a job that had barely been done by anyone. Today, when you see air traffic controllers managing thousands of flights with pinpoint precision, remember Mary standing at her station with a stopwatch on a radio, calculating arrival times by hand and trusting pilots to tell her the truth about where they were in the sky. She took her childhood dreams of flying and turned them into a career that helped millions of people soar thousands of feet in the air safely. And that's a wrap on another incredible journey through the future in flight. From Samson's transforming Switchblade proving that flying cars aren't just sci-fi anymore, to the unsung heroes in control towers keeping our skies safe, to Mary Chance VanScyoc showing us that being first means being brave enough to build the room, today's episode reminded us that aviation's greatest achievements come from people who see the impossible as just another engineering challenge. A huge thank you to Savannah Hunter from the Tango 31 Aero Club for voicing Mary. You rock! Make sure to follow Savannah on social media at Thunderflies for all of the great adventures and coffee she's getting into. You know what really struck me about today's stories? Whether it's Sam spending 14 years perfecting his vision, controllers managing the stress of keeping thousands of people safe every day, Or Mary, pioneering air traffic control with nothing but a stopwatch and determination. They all share one thing: they didn't listen to the people who said it couldn't be done. Speaking of not giving up, I need your help to keep this podcast growing. If today's episode fired up your aviation passion, please hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen, that subscribe button is your flight plan to never missing an episode. And here's my big ask. Take just 2 minutes to leave us a 5-star review and write a few words about what you love about the show. Those reviews are like jet fuel for our podcast. They help other aviation enthusiasts discover our community and join this incredible journey we're on together. Got a story idea? Know someone doing amazing things in aviation? Slide into the DMs through our website or social media. This show thrives on the incredible stories from our aviation family, and I'm always hunting for the next adventure to share. To everyone tuning in, from student pilots chasing their first solo to seasoned aviators with logbooks full of memories, thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for dreaming big, for pushing boundaries, and for proving that the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning. Until next time, keep your innovations bold, your dreams airborne, and remember, the future of flight is whatever we dare to make it. We'll see you out there and up there.